Hello, everyone. This is Hallie Crawford, certified career coach and founder of HallieCrawford.com. And thank you for being here today for our Being Authentic in the Workplace, what to share and what not to share in your professional settings. We really appreciate your time being here today, especially on your lunch hour. And we are going to go ahead and dive in. I will remind you all that this meeting is being recorded and you will receive a recording after the presentation. We will have about 30 minutes today, all told, for our time frame. And also, if you would like a copy of the PowerPoint as we progress, please feel free to email us at admin@HallieCrawford.com. So let's go ahead and get started. So first of all, before we dive in here, I want you all to know that everyone who's participating today, your phones are muted. You will be on mute just to make it a little bit easier for everyone so there's no background noise. And please feel free to use the Q&A, the chat feature in order to ask any questions that you have as we go. I would be happy to spend a moment answering those questions at the end, okay? So, and just by the way, it's found under the More menu on the far right there. So thank you all for being here today. The first thing that I want to share with you and kind of let you know is that I understand how it feels to not be fully authentic at work, okay? In my last full-time job that I had a long time ago when I was living in Chicago, I felt like I couldn't be fully authentic at work. I wasn't living my life according to my values, much less having a career path that was aligned with my career values. So I understand how important this piece of being authentic in your personal lives, but also even much more so in your professional lives to a certain extent is important, and how hard it can be sometimes to feel like, how much can I be myself though? What makes the most sense? What can I share? What's appropriate and what's not? And that's all about what we're going to talk about today. And we do help our clients with this using these same tools that I'm going to share with you today. With great success, helping them be more authentic at work, okay? And just so you all know, when I'm looking over here to the side, it's because I'm checking out the slides, making sure everything looks good and kind of moving things forward as we go. So here's the deal. I was very inauthentic at my job, like I said, in Chicago a long time ago. But luckily, through hard work, creating my own coaching practice as a career coach after I graduated from Vanderbilt University and the University of Illinois, getting my master's degree, I figured out how to be more authentic in my life. And I love this quote. I just wanted you to take a look at this here on the slide. Be yourself because everyone else is taken, right? And that's what we're here to talk about today, is how to be more authentic in our professional lives, but in the right way, in the most appropriate way, okay? And as I said before, I want you to know that I understand how it feels to not be that way. And also, I am able today, and our clients are as well, by the work that we do with them through career coaching, to be really authentic in their professional lives in a way that works for them and that is still appropriate and professional and okay. Okay, so here's our agenda. First of all, we're going to talk about authenticity kind of in general and why that is important to us in not just our personal lives, but in our professional lives as well. We're going to also talk about the 3 steps you need to take in order to make this happen for yourself. Being more self-aware, what's important to you and who you are as a person. Identifying the purpose of when you want to share something, what is the purpose and motivation behind that, so that you're doing the sharing in the right way and at the right time. And then finally, we're going to talk about the 3rd step, how to communicate clearly. So in order to be more authentic, how to leverage effective communication to do that in the proper way. And finally, we're going to talk about, and I want you all to have action steps that you take away from this today, whether you write it on the handout that is in the chat box, please check that out for us, or write it on your computer or notepad, whatever is best for you. But we want you to come away with at least 1 action item that you will take in the next week to become and be more authentic at work. And we are offering everyone on the session today or who listens in, a free career strategy session to help you with whatever goal you need, whether it's being more authentic at work or additional career goals that you might have, okay? So I'm happy to do that with you. And just as a quick reminder, in addition to the recording, if any of you would like a complimentary copy of the presentation today, the PowerPoint slides, so that you don't feel like you have to be frantically writing everything down, please email us at admin@HallieCrawford.com. We would be very happy to share those with you. Okay, so let's talk about why being authentic is important. I love this little duck picture because it's a plastic version and the real version, right? So here's the deal. There was an article in the Harvard Business Review, and I think this quote from it is great. Authenticity has become the gold standard for leadership. It's an important component of not just your fulfillment and being successful as a professional, but being successful as a leader. And a simplistic understanding of what it means and not really understanding what that authenticity means for you as a person, as well as the people that you're leading and managing, it can hinder your growth and limit your impact. So authenticity is critically important, not just for you as a professional, but for you as a leader at work as well, okay? The other reason why it's important is to make sure, I guess I would say, that you are being like true to yourself and fulfilled as a result in your professional life. And what I mean by that, we'll talk about that more in a moment, is honoring your values at work, but also honoring and leveraging your strengths on a regular basis. So take a look at this slide. And in terms of authenticity, how we define it is something that is not false or copied. It's genuine or real. And as you can imagine, and I'm sure you would understand and already know, when someone is authentic and real with us, we are much more able to connect with them, and we're going to follow them as a leader even more so because we have that sense of trust with them. So in terms of our poll here, I want you to think about how many of you on the call today feel like you can't be yourself at work. I just want you to think about that. And as part of this too, how much of the time? Is it 50%? Is it 25%? Or is it 75%? Okay. Our goal is for you to be 75% of the time, at least, feel like you can be authentic and true to who you are and yourself at work. That's what we're going for here. Okay. So let's talk about these, take a look at these 3 steps that you need to take, or keys to being authentic at work. The things that you need to understand about yourself in order to be more authentic at work are 3 things. Who you are as a person, what you want to share at work, what parts of you want to share, and what is appropriate to share based on your organization, the culture, and the industry. So these are our 3 keys that we're going to be talking about as we go here today. So the first key is to understand who you are as a person. And the way that we want you to do this, and the way that we do it with our clients, is we want you to understand what your career values are as well as what your strengths are, because that will help you understand who you are as a person and what the things are that you may want to share. And when I say share, let me be clear about this. The first thing here on the slide here is about values. You need to understand what your top 5 career values are in order to understand and know what you want to share at work. And to clarify that a little bit further is you want your career path or your job to honor those values in some way, shape, or form. So your role and the tasks that you're performing on a regular basis, you want those to honor your values so you can feel like you are being yourself at the office. And second, in terms of your strengths, I referenced this a moment ago, but you also want to make sure that you're leveraging the strengths that you want to leverage on a regular basis in your professional life as well. That is another way that you will be able to be authentic. If you are not leveraging the strengths that you would like to leverage on a consistent basis at your job, you're going to feel inauthentic. And on top of that, you're going to feel unfulfilled and like your job is not rewarding at all. So the first thing that you need to do is start to identify what your top 3 career values are and what your top 5 strengths are, and make sure that your job honors those, both of those, the values and the strengths, okay? So taking a look at the next slide here, if you feel like you are unsure what your career values are and need help with this, please let us know. I'm happy to do that free strategy session with you. We have a very simple, easy, effective way to help people start to define what their values are. I'm happy to share that with you and help you with it, okay? All right, so values and strengths, those are 2 of the key things to understand who you are and what you want to share or how to be more authentic at work. The second key is what you want to share, okay? The next thing you need to think about in terms of when you're feeling inauthentic at the office and in your professional life, what is your motivation for sharing what you want to share, whether it's information or if it's, your strengths and leveraging those. And the things you need to think about here, okay, is the motivation for sharing, is it greater connection with your coworkers? Is the motivation for sharing a story about yourself or something else, is it to provide leadership to your group? Is it something completely different to motivate your team or to let them know you understand, what they're going through? In terms of, or when you're considering sharing or being and being more authentic at work, but sharing information or a story about yourself or leveraging your strengths, you want to understand as well first, what is the purpose of doing this? Because if you understand that from the get-go, then you're going to be better able, I should say, to understand when you want to share this information, what is the right time, and how to do so. If you're just blurting out information for no apparent reason, it's not going to work as effectively for you. And you may feel a little bit more authentic, but it won't have served the purpose that you wanted it to. So you need to identify what your values and your strengths are, but understand also where you're wanting to be more authentic at work and what is the purpose of that for you. Why do you want to have that for yourself? Okay? So also write down and think about what those reasons are. The sun is beating down here in my office today. Luckily, it's nice and cool here in Atlanta, so it warms us up here. All right. So the second piece that I wanted to share with you as part of key number 2, being more authentic, and also thinking about your motivation for sharing, is this Johari window. So this is actually a tool for communication developed in, I think it was in the 50s by 2 men who were psychologists named Joseph Luft and Harry Ingram, and that's why it's called the Johari window, okay? And if you take a look at this here, you'll see that there are 4 panes, and the first pane here at the top left is the open window. What I know about myself and the parts that I'm self-aware of, and what others know about me as well. It's open to both of us, okay? The second one, or the second piece or square to the right there, is the blind spot. What other people know about me, but I don't know about myself, where I'm not as self-aware as I could be, but other people know about it. The third one, bottom left here, is the hidden window. And this is what I know about myself, but I'm not sharing with others, and what others don't know about me, okay? And the fourth square is the unknown. I don't know this bit of information, whether it's one of my values or one of my strengths or an opinion or a belief that I have. I'm not aware of it yet. And other people don't know about it either. And the deal is, let's take a look at this next slide here, is as relationships grow and progress, and this is personal and professional relationships, honestly, but as relationships grow, the pains will change. So you'll see that at the very beginning of the relationship on the left here, of any relationship, the open window will be very small because they don't know that much about us. And the blind and the unknown will be a lot bigger, okay? And as a relationship grows and progresses, and on the right here, when you take a look at a closer relationship and how that would look, the open is much larger. And the goal here for us, personally, but also professionally, is for us to be more open and have people know us better, even as a professional, so that we can feel more authentic at work. So your goal, just so you know before we go to the next slide here, is to become more open as appropriate for your work culture, your role, your industry, and what's comfortable for you as well, to become more open, because as we all know, when we are more open with others, trust and greater trust is developed. We feel more authentic, and as a result, we feel more rewarded and fulfilled and have a greater sense of meaning because we're being more of ourselves at work in our professional lives. So the goal, ideally, is to move towards this model of a closer relationship and have that open square become bigger over time. Then we're also learning more about ourselves and becoming more self-aware as we go, which helps us grow as a professional too. Okay, so key number three, we've talked about who you are and what you want to share. We've talked about what your motivation for sharing is so that you understand the purpose of it for yourself and can be more mindful and strategic about it. And the third key is to understand what's appropriate to share. And these things on the right here on the slide are the things that we recommend you consider when you're thinking about what is appropriate to share in my workplace. It needs to be based on the culture of your organization. Does it tend to be a more open environment where people share a lot of these things, or less so? So you may need to share a little bit less of yourself, but maybe you do so with coworkers after hours sometimes more frequently, if that would make you feel better, for example. You need to also consider the timing of when you're going to share this information that you're considering. Is it, in front of a big meeting or with someone one-on-one, okay? Think about what's most appropriate. This goes back to the motivation for sharing that we talked about before. If your motivation is to motivate your team, you want to share during the course of a team meeting. But if it's something that's more personal and someone is having a hard time, whether it's one of your employees or one of your teammates, it may be better to share that with them, give them that inspiration just kind of one-on-one, because they may be a little bit emotional about it. You want to consider your audience. How does this person that I want to share something with or be more authentic with, how do they tend to communicate, and what's most comfortable for them? Is it one-on-one? Is it via email is better, or over the phone, because that gives them a little bit of a barrier and maybe more comfortable for them. And then finally, you want to think about the environment and the location. And this kind of goes back to whether you share the information in a big group or whether it's one-on-one. So you want to consider these 4 things in order to understand what is appropriate. And just by the way, and then we'll go to the next couple slides here, we all know that talking politics at work can be a minefield. You got to be careful. And I would suggest, honestly, steering clear of it. Unless for whatever reason your job is related to politics, obviously, and you have to, I would just steer clear of it. Because especially if people at work have very strong beliefs about it and maybe kind of hot-headed, a lot of times it's not the time or the place to bring something like that up, whether it's politics or religion or something else. That's where you have to understand what the culture of your organization is and what's going to be appropriate. And I always tell our clients to err on the side of caution. Don't share something that you think might, cause a stir or create a firestorm at work, because professionally, it's just not something you need. We're there to do our jobs, okay? So that's what our recommendation typically is. All right. Next, again, if you feel like, I guess what I would say for a strategy session here is if you feel like you need a strategy session because you're not sure exactly what would be appropriate to share at your workplace based on the culture or anything else, this is where I want you to schedule that free strategy session. We can talk about it further, because as I'm sure you all can understand, we're giving general advice here today, which can apply to most people, but every situation is different based on personality types, based on your relationships with people, based on the culture. So again, happy to chat with you about one-on-one specific scenarios as needed. Okay, we're coming close to the close of our webinar today, and the next thing I want you all to think about is one action step that you will take in the next week to be more authentic at work. And I'm going to give you some ideas in this next slide here. So I want you to start thinking about what would make the most sense for you, and get out your pen and paper, or write on your computer, whatever is best for you, on the handout, whatever works best. But here are some suggested action items and some questions that I want you to consider and ponder over the course of the next couple weeks here as we move into the holidays. Holiday time can be a great time for self-reflection like this, where you're at in your career and what you want to change. So take a look at this slide here. One of the possible action steps could be identify your top 3 career values. Talk to friends and family about it. Schedule the strategy session with me or a consultation to learn more about how do I identify what my values are. Then think about these questions as well. In order to be more authentic at work, do I need to practice more self-disclosure? Am I kind of closed off? And this prevents people from getting to know me. Do I need to think about a couple of things that I would be willing to share that would be appropriate and okay to share, okay, at the workplace? And things that I would like people at work to know about me because they're important to me and would make me feel more real and authentic. The second question I want you to think about and notice and even track this a little bit over the course of the next few weeks here is to think about when are the times at work that you tend to feel less authentic, when you don't feel as authentic. Is it when you're talking with a specific person, in a meeting with a certain client, or is it in a group or, one-on-one? whatever it is, I want you to identify what those patterns are for you during the course of your day where you do not feel as authentic, because that can give you clues to obviously the changes you need to make and where you need to make them. And finally, I want you to think about, could you benefit more by telling others a little bit more about your thoughts, your opinions about what's going on at work, some of your feelings. If you're excited about a particular project and you tend to hold that in, share that with them, because that, passion can be infectious and really positive. Do you need to share more about your beliefs about what you all are doing at work, or the things that you want to, whether it's volunteer your time for or work more on in terms of like a specific project? So pondering and thinking about these questions and even writing out your answers, I would highly recommend that as well, everyone. Writing out your answers to these can help you determine and identify some of the changes that you need to make at work and where you need to make those, okay? So let's start to move to the Q&A portion. And I do have a call at 1, so I'll have a couple minutes to answer any questions that might come up. But one of the things I want you to think about as we start to close and wrap up for today is the greatest risk in life is not taking one. This is the quote that I have always used. Whenever there is a time in my life that I need to push myself outside of my comfort zone, try something new or different, and take a risk in order to achieve a goal that I want to achieve. Even when it's scary, I always remind myself that if I don't take a risk, there's going to be no reward. So I want you to keep this in mind, everybody, as you're thinking about, okay, this self-disclosure or being more authentic or identifying my values. Some of this may be kind of hard for me to work on or try to do, put myself out there more, but it will be so worth it, because without that risk, remember, there can be no reward. Okay, so let's move to the Q&A portion. And I want to just pull up this final slide here to encourage you all to schedule either the free strategy session with you, with me, I should say. It will be directly with me, by the way, as opposed to the other coaches on my team. We have resume writers as well as coaches that can help you with your career goals. I'm happy to do the strategy session with you, and I'm also happy to schedule a complimentary consultation to help you learn more about our career coaching and how we can help you achieve your career goals. We do one-on-one individual coaching all the time. On this slide are some of the quotes and testimonials from our former clients. Our clients have secured positions in their dream jobs, because we're always about helping people find their dream job and land it. These are some of the examples of the companies or organizations where they work. And if you would like to schedule that complimentary consultation with me, please feel free to email us at admin@halliecrawford.com. We will get that scheduled with you right away. Thank you for your time, everyone. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions, please go ahead and enter those into the chat box now, and then we will start to wrap up here in just a moment. All right, good. So we've got one question. Our first question is, how do I be more authentic at work with my boss when they don't seem like they're very open to it? This is a great question. Thank you for asking. So you want to think about, again, going back to what we discussed about the motivation. What would be the reason that you want to be more authentic with your supervisor? Do you want to have greater connection with them, better communication, whatever it is? And if that's the case, figure out, okay, what my goal is and what would the purpose of doing that be and how would they take it? Part of this is, if it is greater communication or better communication or having a closer relationship with them in an appropriate way, you want to talk with them about how can we improve our communication. Like, I would discuss that with them directly and say, I would like to improve our communication for this reason and this purpose. Can we discuss this at a certain time and discuss the best way to do that? Do you have any thoughts on it? But you, as the employee, go in as well and give some advice and suggestions about what you think might improve things. So that would be just a topic that I would bring up just very directly. If you want to have that greater connection with them, you need to remember that they may not want that. They may not feel the same way. But if it would make you feel a little bit better to talk about your weekend for just a second, or even to ask them about it for a second, even if it's a very short conversation, you can always try it and see how it goes. Know that they may not respond, and keep in mind that they may not respond in the way that you exactly want them to, but you can try it kind of like fishing. Put the line in the water, see how it goes. If it doesn't go as well as you had thought, at least you tried and did it that way. And you can share with them a couple of things about what happened during the course of your weekend, whatever is appropriate, and then move on to business. So think about, again, what your motivation is, and go in with a plan about, this is something that I'd like to share and ask about. Try it out, see how it goes. And maybe it's something that you share on a more regular basis. You talk about something that you did over the weekend or whatever it is. But if they're not as amenable to it and they're not picking up on it as much, that's okay. If it makes you feel more authentic, just keep it short and sweet and then move on to work. Okay, any other questions before we go here? All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us today. We greatly appreciate it. Please contact us to learn more about our coaching. I would be happy to speak with you about any career goal, give you advice on what you should do next, as well as talk to you about our coaching services and how we can help you get to that next level. Have a great day. Thank you for joining us.